So I'm asked sometimes to explain and unpack a little bit more the concepts of the human self, the cosmic self, and the original self. And so I wanted to capture that in one spot for you to easily reference and or share with others in your world as you go ahead. So your human self is what you think of as yourself. Most of us just think of ourselves as this one human, right? Like Melanie. Here I am. I'm Melanie. That's me. That's who I am. In this mental model, this is my human. And a word about mental models, as I always say throughout all of my materials, mental models will always be inadequate, incomplete, and because we're using words and we're using words because that's what the human brain needs, and using words to describe these kinds of concepts about the nature of reality is like using a hammer to split an atom. The tool is always too crude. But we do the best that we can, right? And words can be beautiful and fun, and they can like open our hearts and activate. And so they have absolute power and magic, and words are spells, right? So cast wisely when you use your words, but understand that they are incomplete when we're talking about many things related to the nature of reality. And then my philosophy is very strongly that it is not up to any one person to say, and this is the nature of reality and everything else is wrong. And so I'm giving you and sharing in a way that I hope is helpful my understanding of the nature of reality and the mental models that I'm using and working with and that are in my awareness at this time. But if you have different understandings, then go with those, right? So take what's useful and leave the rest without judgment, because what isn't useful today may become useful tomorrow. And what is useful today may become unuseful tomorrow. So we want to just kind of take what's useful and keep on going, understanding that the human expansion process, just the way we work as biological beings in our neurobiology, requires kind of a rhythm of two things happening regularly for us to be expanding. One is that aha moment, the new mental model or the synthesis of mental models that we've been working with into something new, right? Or an understanding of it at some level. And then the visceral embodied experience, visceral meaning like tangible, tactical, like in my body, I'm feeling, oh, I'm really feeling the experience of blah, 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 which may be related to the mental model I'm working with right now and really anchors it, or it may be kind of as a result of working with certain mental models, and it sends me up to the next awareness and blooms open within me the next kind of level of understanding of mental model. So it's this kind of like a rock climbing metaphor where the mental models and the visceral embodied experience are like the sort of the toe holds and the finger holds that we need to keep on moving up that rock face, right? Okay. So human, cosmic, original. So human self, right? That's just who we think of and what most of the world thinks of as who we are. The cosmic self is like your soul or your higher self. Higher self means different things to different people. So I don't use any of those words as a result because they're already like over interpreted and over co-opted, and kind of they mean a lot of different things to different people. Same thing with soul. But again, it's words. It doesn't matter, right? Mental models doesn't matter. So your cosmic self is like your soul, your higher self, your spirit. It is the beingness that is you. It is your being, regardless of your body, regardless of this life, that has had, is having, will have all of the different lives and experiences that your being will have, is having, has had. And I'm using all the three tenses because we're used to thinking of time as a line. So we're used to thinking of past, present, future, but actually time is a sphere, and your cosmic self sits in the middle of this sphere and is accessing and experiencing all of its many lives simultaneously. We can't do that here. We can't have access to all of them here in complete detail because our human biology would just fritz out. It would be like running too much electricity in a house and it blows the breaker. And so that's why when people are like, but I want to know all of my past lives, like, you don't, baby, because you would just be like hospitalized and medicated and it would be bad news. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have plenty of awarenesses about other lives, and we can have huge kind of data banks of awarenesses of other lives in various different ways, but we're, not typically, I've never been aware of a single human who's had awareness of every single aspect of every single life that they've ever had. I would be probably a little dubious of such a claim from anyone, just from the biology that we're in at this time. So now you may have had many lives that were all human and were all here on Earth. You may have had many lives on Earth where you were other things that weren't human. You may have had lives where you were kinds of beings that humans don't recognize as existing. Non-corporeal beings, dragons, fairies, beings from other star systems, beings that exist in, primarily in other dimensions and don't take physical form. You may have other lives in which you've been a planet, in which you've been a star, in which you've been a galaxy. All of these things can be possible. Anything is possible. And so that's your cosmic self. The cosmic self is like having and has had all of these different experiences and understands and sees all of it. And also is wanting to experience certain things through these different lives as well. And so it's sort of designing those lives or choosing those lives in order to have certain experiences. Okay, then your original self, if we're going to use time as a line for a moment. So if we can imagine the idea of sort of the kind of source where everything comes from that has no differentiation of energy, right? So we have all these different kind of cosmic beings, cosmic selves that are all unique, individual, or differentiated energy kind of units, beings, selves, whatever we want to call it. And they all come from, we'll call it source. You could call it God, goddess, divinity. It doesn't matter to me what you call it, but source, where within source, there's no differentiation, there's no individuation, there's no separate self, right? And that's an experience that you might want, and you can return to that. The being can always return and be in that experience. Everybody else that wants to be out in this kind of interesting experience of what does it feel like to be a differentiated energy that is uniquely my own, through which the deep sacred current of life force can express and experience unique creations. That's what we're all doing. If you're here, that's what you're doing. And your human may have moments of like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't like that. I want to go back to source and just melt back into that oneness. But if you're still here, then obviously some part of you actually doesn't want that right now or in this particular life experience. And so try to work beyond or underneath that if you can to see what the information there is telling you. Okay, so original self is when the kind of the energy for what will become your unique, individual, differentiated being comes out of that sort of source. I don't know, I keep seeing it's like just a sort of amoeba. And it's just sort of this like cosmic primordial magnetism, which is, on the sort of, in scientific talks, as they sort of talk about as kind of like the very early stages of the universe. Of course, there are many universes, but this kind of idea of like, boom, this first primordial, like bloop out into a unique, individual, differentiated energy, signal, frequency, whatever, and that little pearl of being before any other experience has occurred. That is your original self. Just that one pure moment. And then as soon as experiences begin, we start moving into cosmic self. Okay. So cosmic self and original self are like big, the whole picture, like all the lives, if you will. They're like they're not about just your human. So your human original self is not like, oh, like when I was a baby, like, no. And it's not even like my soul that came into my body. No, it's this very specific, like pearl is how I often see it, like a shining light pearl, or energy point. And I don't mean like physical human pearl, like a pearl of light. So, and you can see it in other ways too, of course. So original cosmic human. Now, the reason we are interested in these things at this time is because the human evolutionary journey is about the accessing of and then physical biological integration of cosmic and original self into your human biology. And the trinity union of human, cosmic, and original is the kind of definition, if you will, of Homo Lumens, which is where humanity is headed and evolving to at this time. And so we're in a long journey to do that. And we're talking about biological integration. So there needs to be time and process. It isn't an instantaneous thing because of where we currently are in our relationship to physical matter. Okay. So I think that's kind of like the core concepts defined of these three things for you to have. And basically everything else that we might talk about nests within this framework. So we might talk about kind of upgrading DNA or activating dormant DNA strands or bringing online different kinds of capacities in different ways. These all happen as byproduct of the integration of cosmic and original self. Okay. And then the sort of the new addition into the mix that has occurred, have been the supports from the founder codes through the first and second waves from 2021 and 2022. And those first and second wave founder code supports have brought through very specific codes to support the opening of the mechanism for us to access the original self. That wasn't even accessible by the human biology until the spring of 2021 in my timeline. It just wasn't. It just wasn't even there. We were only dealing with cosmic self up until then. And then, oh, well, here comes this thing. Like, I didn't even know I was missing this until I'm so excited to have it. So that is that was the timing on that. And then in this second wave earlier in 2022, we then were receiving the full original 12 quote unquote elements, building blocks of creation, and these were supporting the DNA expressions within us, if you will, and genetic expressions that are helping accelerate the biological shifts that are happening. And then 12 new elements that have never been brought into any other creational space until they were brought here in the late spring of 2022 were opened up, and these became the building blocks of an entirely new energy grid for the earth. And so we had a few days prior to that occurring where it felt like the earth's energy grid was absent. And it was, because it was clearing away, as is always the case for us in all levels. We have to empty things out, release, let them go, clear them out so that the new can come in. And then this new beautiful 12 new elements forming into these sort of flower energies, all the colors of the earth, all the flowers in the earth, all their colors were involved in these 12 elements, and they kind of knit together in this beautiful organic sort of flower energy, earthen energy grid. Fantastic, incredible, just like total jubilation throughout all the cosmos with this, because this is not just affecting Earth as a being. What's going on with Earth as a being is affecting the rest of the cosmos at this time. That's not always the case, right? Like sort of who is at the center, or who is not at the center, because it's not like quite the center, but who is having these kinds of like, it's sort of like whose turn is it to be, on center stage. And it's a giant ensemble cast in the all of all. And like different beings get a turn at the center stage. And Earth is at center stage right now for the cosmos. Right? And we're here, and we're here for that, and for what humanity is now able to experience as a result of that. So we want to both, and I've spoken about this in other places and it confuses some people, but we want to both center ourselves in our own lives, put yourself at the center of your own life and all of this inner process and journey within to truly see and know yourself so that you can truly become all that you came here to be, and which first means you have to become all that you came into the world as, which much of modern humanity has stripped that away from you. So you have to kind of fight your way back to the beginning, and then, in some ways, it's not that linear, but you get what I'm saying, I think. And then from there, when you put yourself at the center, you have to actually also then de-center humanity. There's a lot of ways of approaching evolution or growth or spiritual perspectives that put humanity at the center, and therefore like as better than everything else, or more important. And that's just not true. Remember our ensemble cast in the cosmos, right? Humanity's like a side player, honestly. There's some, humanity's kind of getting some room on center stage alongside Earth right now, but only because Earth is. And so it's this paradox. And we want to feel important and special, and we are important and special. And like no more so than anything else in the universe. So this kind of interesting, the more you center yourself in your own life, as opposed to being in sacrifice or martyr or self-negating mode, where you put everybody else at the center and then wonder why nobody's paying attention to you, or you're focused on these other things instead of taking care of you or taking care of what's really truly needed. This just doesn't work, right? But the more you put yourself at the center, in a narcissistic way, in a non-jerky way, the easier it is to then see the vastness and experience the vastness of this giant, beautiful panoply of beings and experience and creations that are all the deep sacred current of life force flowing through. All right, I hope that's useful and makes sense to you. So that's just what I wanted, was to kind of give you in some different words than I have, or they're actually probably pretty much the same words for those of you who follow closely, but just another little version or nugget on what do I mean by these three terms of human, cosmic, and original self, which make up this trinity of Homo Lumens. And that is that. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your light in the world. I love you.